Does the Stoic way of life that he personified kind of hit a ceiling when a more revolutionary type of action is necessary? Like, for example, we know full well right now that if we don't do something really radical about our way of life, climate change will result in the collapse of our civilization.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and I think the answer is yes. That shows the limitations of Stoicism as a philosophy. I agree. I mean, Stoicism is a great philosophy of life at a personal level. It has helped me immensely. It has helped a lot of people that have read either my books or other books about modern Stoicism. So it's got a lot of good stuff going on for it. And to some extent, one might sort of respond to that question by pointing out that nobody criticizes other philosophies of life for failing to address structural problems. It's not like you go to Christians or Buddhists, for instance, and say, hey, what about structural issues in society? They will shrug off and say, well, this is not what this is about. It's about personal growth and personal improvement, not about society. But I agree with you. That's not a good excuse. I think, in fact, that Stoicism, Buddhism, and Christianity, all three of them fail at that level because they do not take into account the structural level. There are philosophies that do. And the best example in ancient Greece and Rome is the type of skepticism that was put forth by Cicero. Marcus Tullius Cicero was a Roman statesman, philosopher, and public advocate, so essentially a lawyer. And he was a practical person. And he realized very clearly, very consciously, that philosophy has to address the structural level. So he wrote a book called, it has one of my favorite titles ever. In Latin is De Finibus Bonorum et Malorum, which translates to On the Ends of Good and Evil. I just love that. For some reason, I just love that title. It's a great title. Now, On the Ends of Good and Evil, he talks about the general issue of what is good and what is not good. Because in his ideas being, if you don't have that in mind, if you don't have that kind of moral compass, that you can distinguish good stuff from bad stuff, then we're not even going to start this conversation. Then he wrote On Duty, which is about personal philosophy. It's about, okay, how do you work within a society, within whatever society you happen to be. Even if it is a tyranny, you still have a duty to be a good human being. And so On Duties addresses the issue of that Stoicism addresses, the issue that Christianity and Buddhism address. That is, how do you live as an individual human being? But he also wrote two other books, De Legibus on the laws, and De Republica on the republic, where he actually talks about what kind of laws and state we want. In other words, he went structural. He said, okay, but it's great to be, able to be a Stoic, let's say, within a society, but sometimes we also need to ask ourselves what kind of society we want and whether we need to make changes at what we would today call a structural level. He didn't use that word, of course, but at a structural level. So I think actually that among the ancients, Cicero really stands up. He's often undervalued because he's often presented as somebody who just translated Greek philosophy. Right, that he was not an original philosopher of his own, that he just popularized Greek philosophy for the Romans. That's not true. I mean, the guy wrote some really interesting original philosophy, and especially political philosophy, which was a novel thing at the time. Nobody was paying attention to the structural level. So it is possible for a philosophy to address both the personal and the structural level, and I would argue that it should be, addressed. And so, yes, that is a limitation of Stoicism, but to be fair, it's not just Stoicism; it's a lot of personal philosophies and religions that fall into the same kind of trap.
But if you are, for example, trying to adopt a more Stoic way of life, how do you know when you've been improving or concentrating on yourself too much, kind of to the neglect of your responsibilities to society, for example? Is there a way to combine the two?
Yeah, that's a
in a more practical way.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think there is a way. Unfortunately, too often today, Stoicism is presented as a philosophy of self-improvement as if other people were not, did not exist. It's often presented as a set of life hacks more than a philosophy, right?
Yeah, a lot
So
of
if
these
you,
like CEOs and
yeah, right.
new age gurus will talk about, like, the YouTube is full of like videos of people who espouse this sort of hustle culture,
Right.
and they're talking about stoicism kind of helped me elevate my entrepreneurship and all that stuff.
Exactly. In other
And it's a
words,
bit, I think you call it, I saw an interview with you where you call it stoicism with the dollar sign, right?
that's right. Exactly. So in other words, what you're saying is that YouTube is full of crap. Yes, I agree.
This podcast will appear on YouTube as well, so.
Well, I didn't say that it's all crap,
All right, nice.
but
Thank you for the
but there is a
distinction.
lot of it. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree, absolutely agree.
Look, I get invited because I wrote How to Be a Stoic. I get invited from time to time to give talks to corporate groups or to some kind of business groups, and I warned them that I said, yeah, I can do that, but I'm going to talk about the philosophy. I'm not going to talk about the life hackery kind of thing. And so I do give a talk, and then I tell them usually near the end of the talk, it's like, look, if you really understand Stoicism, then you will understand that building your business in order to make money is a preferred indifferent, meaning it is something that actually has not much value for your life. You need to do it because you need to pay your bills, and that's fine. It has practical value, but it's not really what's important in your life. And if you think that that is in fact one of the most important things you need to do to build your business, to be successful, to make money, etc., then you completely misunderstood Stoic philosophy. Stoicism is about becoming a better human being, and it's about helping other people becoming better human beings. One of the fundamental ideas of Stoicism is cosmopolitanism, is the notion that we should treat every single human being on the planet as if they were our brothers and sisters. That's incompatible, I would say, with a strong form of capitalism and a strong form of consumerism. It's just, you cannot do it. If you are going to make, there is no way, for instance, in my mind at least, that you can become a billionaire without hurting other people. It's just not going to happen. You have to exploit other people in order to make that much money.
Yep.
And therefore, if I look at you and you are in Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, I'm going to tell you straight out, I'm sorry, you're not a Stoic. You might think you're practicing Stoicism, but no, there's no way in hell that is Stoicism. The Stoics don't have a problem with wealth. They don't have a problem with money. Epictetus, at the beginning of the Discourses, tells you money is fine because, again, you can do things with money. But the question is, what are you going to do with money? And the money itself doesn't tell you. What tells you is your faculty of judgment. And you can use money for good, to help other people, to make the world a better place, or you can use it for bad, to undermine the political process, to buy politicians and stuff like that, to corrupt people. So it's entirely up to you. Money in itself is neutral from a moral perspective. It's what you do with that money that matters, and that is a matter of your judgment. It's a matter of your virtue. And unfortunately, a lot of these people don't want to hear that. They don't really like the notion of being told about virtue. They want to know how to make more money or how to become successful, in which case they completely misunderstood what it means to be a Stoic.
So do you get invited to less and less of these talks?
Yeah, that's right. I haven't had one of those invitations in a while, and that's okay. That's fine.
The
with
word
me.
has spread.
Yes, the word has spread.